We have our sense of self, we have our identities, we have, the privilege of sitting here together. What do we think adoption can teach the world?
Yeah, I think that we are in this really tumultuous time right now. The people who we think are going to survive and thrive the most in this time are people who can hold dualities with the greatest amount of ease. Maybe that's not the
Grace.
right word.
Yeah.
Grace. And right now it seems really tough for a lot of people to understand how all these contradictions exist. And in terms of ways of thinking, this is something that a lot of Eastern traditions and ways of thinking have dealt with for literally centuries and beyond that. And so this is a new thing, I think, for a lot of people who think that we work in binaries and that it always has to be either or. And adoptees, I think, are really uniquely equipped to, from a very early age, out of survival, but then, as I said before, going from survival into creating something that's new and possible.
Yes.
To hold these things because we've had to, right? And I think for myself, when I was starting to move from, do I feel Korean enough or American enough, really being able to be screw that. I'm what I want to be.
That's right.
And there's no panel that gets to decide that gets your file and is oh no, congratulations.
Yes, definitely Korean enough. No,
you
not
were
so
Korean
much.
enough today, when you
Right.
were with your family. I'm that as much as I want to be anytime I
Yes.
want to be. And when I realized that the amount of energy suck and the bandwidth that would take up worrying about that and just not caring anymore, that I get to decide that, and I think it's little things moving to Korea. I was cooking a lot of, I knew how to cook certain Korean food, and some of my Korean friends there, because they work so much and they're so busy, they don't actually cook. And so I was meeting these real Koreans, air quotes, real Koreans, and they were you cook more Korean food than I do. You know how to cook this more than I do.
Right.
And so that really starts to bring up this idea of what is essentialism when it comes to identity, and how do we perform a sense of Koreanness or Americanness, and am I really gonna put that towards my energy levels? And so I think this idea that this contradiction that I am the receiver of so many resources and privileges in the U.S. because of my family, their socioeconomic background, their whiteness, right? But I've been marginalized and I've been part of this system too. That, Elena Kim talks about adoptees embodying the contradictions of the global. And that is a really unique perspective for us to extend compassion and knowledge and vision for greater communities.